problem came out of nowhere, Zoe. Oh, man. Hey! Hey, Scott, it's Pizza Pete. Down at Pizza Pete's Pizza Parlor, down on Peterson. Hey, Pizza Pete. Yeah, I noticed you haven't ordered in a few weeks. I'm, just checking in. Are we okay? Yeah, about that. I've been meaning to talk to you. I see. It's not you, Pizza Pete. It's me. I found a way to make pizza at home that's cheaper and more effective, and I can control what goes on it and in it. Yeah, sure. I understand. I'm sorry, Pete. I guess we'll always have pepperoni. We'll always have pepperoni. I love you. Pizza has become an ingrained part of our lives. According to certain studies, we eat it at least once a week. In fact, one study said that Americans eat 23 pounds of pizza per person per year, which is a lot of pizza. But as with all things, in moderation, it's fine. Now, the only problem is pizza has gotten really expensive, especially delivery. What can start out as a $14 order after taxes, convenience fees, delivery fees, tips, the fee just for using the program, the fee for using the site, the fee for using the mobile app, the fee just for using your eyes, it comes out to a $30 order, which is kind of ridiculous. Which is why I wanted to talk about making pizza from home. Now, a lot of people make this pizza crust. You can just get it at the store, roll it out, and build your own pizza from there. And that's totally fine. You can absolutely do this if you want to. I don't want to. I want to make pizza from scratch, and that's what we're going to do today. We're actually going to make two pizzas. A very meaty buffalo chicken pizza and a veggie pizza. And we're going to do all of these from scratch. So, let's make pizza. So believe it or not, making dough from scratch is surprisingly simple. Most of us have the main ingredients on hand. You only might need to go out and get the yeast, which is readily available in just about any grocery store. So for this dough, we're following a recipe that's going to give us enough to make at least two pizzas, maybe more. And for that, we've got about 3.5 cups of flour, some salt, some sugar, some yeast, some olive oil, and some warm water. Now, the first thing you have to do whenever you're going to make any kind of dough is what's called blooming the yeast. Yeast itself is actually alive. It's really cool when you think about it. But you basically mix the yeast, some sugar, and some warm water together, and that starts to bloom, which we'll check out in just a second. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that our water is warm but not scalding hot. If it's too hot, it'll actually kill the yeast, which is what we don't want. That'd be a bad thing. You want your water to be between about 100 and 110 degrees. That's enough to bring the yeast back to life without killing it. If you have one of these thermometers on hand, they're absolutely great. If you don't, most stores have them. If they don't have that one exactly, they've got these good old meat thermometers, which work just as well. So, we're going to start by mixing the sugar into the water. Give that a second to dissolve. Now, we're mixing sugar into the water because the sugar will activate the yeast, and it'll give it something to chew on. Basically what happens is the yeast eats the sugar and goes, wow, that was good, and then starts burping and starts creating all of these gases. And it's those gases that allow the dough to rise and give it those wonderful little pockets that turn crispy and good and wonderful. All right, now we've got the sugar dissolved in here. Now we're going to pour in the yeast, and once we do, we're just going to let it sit. So the yeast is going to go in, and you're totally fine to give that just a bit of a stir. And then once you've done that, you're just going to let that be. The yeast is going to bloom. It's going to get all foamy and fuzzy and look really cool. Come on, my little friends. Bloom for me. Make me a proud yeasty papa. No, that didn't sound right. That didn't sound right at all. That was so good! The timing on that stupid joke could not have been better. I am so proud of you, my little yeasty boys. So it's been about 5 minutes, and our bloomed yeast kind of looks like a head on a really bad beer. But that's what we're looking for. It's all foamy and bubbly, and the air around it smells like bread. So now we can actually start mixing everything together. Now we're doing things a little bit differently on this. Traditionally, oh no, my whisk is wet. Hang on, no, we'll cut this. So this is the point of the recipe where we basically just mix everything together. And that's what we're going to use our stand mixer for. If you don't have a stand mixer, totally fine. Use the biggest bowl of your choice. We're going to take our salt here. We're going to add that into our flour. And we're just going to gently whisk to combine. Doesn't have to be perfect or good or great or whatever. Then we're going to take our olive oil and we're actually going to pour it into our yeasty mix. Then we're just going to take everything and pour it into our big bowl here. We're going to put in our yeast and olive oil. Yes. We're going to put on our dough hook attachment. Now on our stand mixer, we have to raise the bowl. So we're going to raise that, lock that into place, and we're going to let this beat on low for a couple of minutes until the dough starts to come together. Now we need to roll this out, or put this out onto a lightly floured work surface. Now, in a tiny kitchen, this is where you have to get creative. This is our workspace right here. So I've got this really big cutting board that has a flat side and a side with a little ridge on it. The flat side I found is perfect for things like this. So we're going to get the dough out of here, onto here. We're going to lightly flour it and our hands, and we're going to get in there and start working it. Get in there? Whatever. This out of here. There we go. For this, we're kneading the dough. To knead, you're basically pushing out with your palm, pulling what you did, bringing it back, pushing out with your palm. Now, even though our thing here has little rubber thingies on it, it's not exactly staying still. So when we're doing this, when we're kneading, you hear a lot of people say, we're doing this to develop the dough's gluten. And everyone goes, cool, awesome. What is that? Gluten is a protein in the bread. It's basically what allows it to be stretchy and elastic, but also make the air pockets and everything else. It's sort of what makes bread bread. All right, so you can tell when the dough is done after you've put it in a little ball. If you poke it and you see it start to bounce back. That is starting to bounce back. So I think we've got our gluten developed pretty well. We've got our dough developed pretty well. I'm clearly out of breath because I have not kneaded like that in a while. But now we just set it up to proof. So proofing is a term that you hear a lot with breads and doughs, and basically it just means to let the dough rest and rise. Let the yeast we put in there do its thing, start burping and making those pockets. So to let this proof, we're just going to take it and we're going to put it in a bowl and let it sit for about an hour and a half at room temperature. Now, one thing I found is a really big help, and learned this way too late in my cooking career, is take a little bit of olive oil and use that to grease the inside of your bowl. As the dough rises as it proofs, that'll keep it from sticking all over the sides of the bowl. Also, take your thing, give your dough just a little coat in the olive oil as well, whatever's left over on your paper towel. Now we're also going to take the dough, and you see me kind of tucking it under itself at the bottom here. That's going to help it form a ball, help everything stay nice and tidy on the inside. And as we put it in our bowl to proof, it's going to make it also look pretty. Once it's in your bowl, you can cover it. You can use saran wrap or a kitchen towel, whatever you have on hand. And then you'll let this sit for an hour to an hour and a half. Basically, you want to come back and see that the dough has doubled in size. Now, while that's resting, we do have some other work to do. So I mentioned before that we're going to be making a buffalo chicken pizza, which is great, but what if you don't have buffalo sauce on hand? Well, we got you. So we're going to make a small batch of buffalo sauce to go on our pizza tonight. So to do that, we're going to start with 1 cup of hot sauce. Now, most people, myself included, like to use Frank's Red Hot. They're not sponsoring us, but it just makes the best buffalo sauce, so I'll just give them the shout out. To that, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of white wine vinegar, a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, half a tablespoon each of garlic, onion powder, and paprika, and a dash, just a dash of cinnamon, and also a whole stick of butter. Buffalo sauce isn't good for you. It tastes good. It's not that great for you. So we've got our pot starting to warm up. Let's put everything in. We're going to start with our stick of butter. Just plop that guy on in. Our cup of hot sauce. Now you can use any hot sauce you like, whichever one you prefer. Again, I'm just a fan of the classic. Our white wine vinegar. Worcestershire garlic, onion, red stuff, dash, and I mean dash, of cinnamon. Come on, dash. Okay, a dash of a dash. Your favorite silicone whisk, and just stir it up. Okay, so our buffalo sauce, it came to a boil, and then we turned it down to a simmer for just about 10 minutes. This lets everything kind of boil down and marry and congeal and turn into absolute goodness. I'm really excited to try this. I have my try-and spoon. Let's see where we are on this. It looks very, very hot. It is. Oh, that is good. That is good. So, the hot sauce has boiled down. The different spices that we put in there have turned into a spice melange. And with this stuff, we probably could traverse the universe. The butter, of course, kind of adds a mellowness on the back end. Everything is married together wonderfully. This is probably the best homemade buffalo sauce I've made, and I'm really happy about that. We're going to transfer this to an airtight container, let it cool, and now we just have to work on prep while the dough finishes proofing. So your pizzas are almost ready to get made. The dough is proofing, but you have to figure out what to put on it. Now, we know we're making our buffalo chicken and our veggie pizza, but this is where you actually get to play, because you have one of these in your house, most likely. And that would be a fridge. And in here is a whole bunch of stuff that's left over. And you can make what I like to call leftovers pizza, where you've got maybe some chicken fingers left over, or some meat from another dinner, or some meat, some veggies, whatever. What's great about pizza is you can put whatever you want on it, which is what we're going to do here. So I'm going to get prepping and I guess enjoy your new view. And down the middle. One line, one line, one line, one line. Bam. So it's been about 90 minutes, and as you can see with the dough here, the Yeasty Boys did fight for their right to party. It has more than doubled in size. Now what we're going to do is we're going to roll it out, divide it, and we're going to make 2 pizzas out of this dough. So we're going to roll this out onto our floured workstation. Good to flour your hands too. And we are going to get this divided. Now you want to actually punch the dough down a little bit to get a lot of that excess air out of there. I know that sounds counterintuitive because we spent all that time making that air, but with pizza, you don't want all of those big bubbles as it cooks. So like I said before, we're going to divide this in about half. So I'm just going to take my bench scraper, I'm just going to go, that looks about half. So we've got 1 and 2. Now this other one, we are going to ball back up, and we're going to set off to the side, because that is going to turn into a very different type of pizza, which you're going to see very shortly. We're going to take this other one, ball it back up as well, and start with, let's start with a veggie pizza. That sounds good. So traditionally, pizzas are round, but not everybody has a round baking sheet or a pizza stone or anything like that. Most people have a straight up old cookie sheet. Oh no, my microphone. No! No, cut all this out. A cookie sheet. So, because most people have just a straight up cookie sheet, I'm going to make our first pizza to fit this. Now the first thing you'd want to be doing if it were round, you would want to go along the edges and make your crust separate from the rest of it. You just press your fingers into it, and that helps get those air pockets out. Then you would take your fingers and you would slowly press down all along the dough, down the middle and up the sides. And you would feel any air pockets would be leaving at that point. You would then take your dough, flip it over onto your surface, and with one hand pull and the other hand turn. So it's a pull and a turn, a pull and a turn, a pull and a turn. And you do that repeatedly until the pizza starts to take its shape. If it's not going well, you do the knuckle over knuckle technique, where you've got one knuckle here and the other one over here, and you just gently pass and pull as you're doing that. And then the more you do that, the more the more the dough actually starts to move outwards. Now, a lot of times you see people in pizza shops, they do the whole flippy thing, which actually does have a purpose. It does stretch the dough. It does help with a little bit of centrifugal force to push the dough from the middle outwards. It has also been, oh man, how long since I've done this? What's interesting, though, is that muscle memory kind of kicks in from all those years ago of doing this. And man, that was my favorite thing in the shop, just to do the toss. I'm going to do it again because I like doing it. Yeah. Now, I put this on the pan. Is it perfectly round? No. I didn't ask you. Is it perfectly round? No. Is it perfectly square? No. Is it going to turn into pizza? Yeah. So the heart of any pizza is going to be the sauce. And some people will tell you you have to buy the pizza sauce. You don't. You can make your own, or you can just grab whatever off-the-shelf pasta sauce you like. Because guess what? Pizza places use pasta sauce too. So we're just going to scoop out some sauce, and we're going to start by putting that sauce in the middle of our pie. Because we're going to take our spoon here, and we're going to slowly, in circles, move it out towards the edges of the pizza. And if there's a spot you feel like it's going to need more sauce, go ahead and dump a little more sauce on there. But this gives you a really great initial, hey, this is where the sauce is going to be, and it's going to be good. Once the sauce is on, it's everyone's favorite, the cheese. If the cheese would open. From the heavens came the gift of the gods, mozzarella cheese. Sometimes people will say, hey, how much cheese should you put on the pizza? And the answer is yes. It's really however much your heart desires. My rule of thumb always was, can you just see a little bit of the sauce peeking through the bottom? Then that will be your standard regular cheese pizza. Alright, since we're doing veggie on this one, we've got some onions that we've already cut up, and we're just going to take a handful and sprinkle them on. I think that's actually good. We've got some green pepper chunks, which also sprinkle those on. When you're making pizza yourself, there's no rhyme or reason to what you're putting on. You don't have to have exactly 3 pepperonis per slice or, whatever it is now. You can make it however you want, and that's what's great about homemade pizza. It is going to be your baby. And the person for whom I am making this veggie pizza is watching me off camera and telling me more. No, just put all of it on. No, more. Alright, so we have got some green pepper, some onion, some tomato, and now, my favorite, some spinach. Some people don't like spinach on their pizza. I actually like it. It is a fairly benign flavor, but it's good roughage, it's filling, it's just wonderful. Now, this pizza is almost ready to put in. There's just one other trick that you can do to make your pizza stand out just that much better. And that's right, it involves butter. Okay, I'm actually going to let you guys in on a little bit of a secret. I've worked in a bunch of different restaurants, so there are certain recipes that I've taken for my own that just make things a lot better. And this is one of them. This is going to make any crust you make stand out that much better. So we're going to start with a little bit of melted butter. I've got a couple of tablespoons in here. And we're going to add a couple of really simple ingredients. We're going to add a pinch of salt. We're going to add a couple dashes of garlic powder. Going to add a little bit of Italian seasoning. And here's the kicker. This is what most people don't get. Shaky cheese. You put some shaky cheese in there as well. Then, once it's all in, you take the largest brush in the world, mix it all up, and you run this over the crust of your pizza. Is it healthy? No. Is it delicious? Yes. Will it make any homemade pizza you make stand out? Oh yeah. Will Susan down the street taste this at the next potluck and get jealous and wonder exactly how you did it? You're darn tootin'. Alright, we are going to take this. Our oven has actually been set to 450. It's been preheating this entire time. We're going to put it in for about 10 minutes or until the crust is golden brown and the cheese and toppings are all melty and gooey together good. So, here we go. Pizza number 1. See you real soon. Alright, our first pizza is ready to come on out. If we take a look out of that hot oven, look at that. Oh, that bubbly, cheesy crust. That nice golden brown exterior. That looks really good. We should all be proud of that pizza because that right there is a pizza made from scratch. And we did that, you and I, together. Be proud of that. Eat that. Enjoy it. That is a good-looking pizza. But what if you think the toppings on that are a little too healthy? Well, that is where our next pizza comes in. While that one cools, we've actually got another one set. Now, a lot of people have these bad boys. A nice, big old cast iron skillet. And believe it or not, you can make a pizza in a cast iron skillet. It's the exact same process. Now, you can preheat these, or you can just oil the ever-living heck out of it, and then stick the whole thing in the oven. You'll put this in the oven at about 450 for about 20 minutes. While that guy cools, let's get this guy together. We are making a buffalo chicken bacon ranch deep dish pizza. That is a mouthful, but it should be a mouthful. Let's try it out. So, the chicken itself is from some leftover chicken tenders. Now, you can get some chicken tenders from your store. There are restaurants that serve exclusively chicken tenders. If you've got some chicken patties or chicken nuggets, whatever you might have on hand, that makes a great topping. Now, we have some leftover onions from our veggie pizza, so we're just going to gently put a few of those on here, too. Now, earlier, I had cooked up some bacon that has been sitting on some paper towels to drain. Just pull apart the bacon, crunch it up, depending on how well you got it cooked. Put that on top of your pie. Some people might say, hey Scott, I thought you were making pizza, why do you keep saying you're making a pie? That would be because I grew up in New Jersey. Good old Ocean County, New Jersey, where there's a heavy influence from New York, and we call pizza, well, it's interchangeable. We call it both pizza and pie. I think that's enough bacon, which is a sentence I never thought I'd say. Next up, our buffalo sauce. Now, as you can see, our sauce has been sitting for a bit to cool down. It's separated just a little bit. That can happen. Just give it a stir, and you are good as new. Now, again, what's great about doing this yourself is you can control exactly how much buffalo sauce you wish to put on your pizza. First pizza was healthy. This pizza's fun. And finally, because this is America, some ranch dressing. We're just going to add a little bit of that on top. Now, I actually had a hard time saying ranch there because there's an in-joke with me and the wife where we'll say cranch, and I don't even know how it started. I think it was a Mystery Science Theater joke, but it just stuck, so I'll say cranch every now and then. Now that this crazy experiment is underway, we're going to take this, we're going to put it in the oven for about 20 minutes, which I know feels like a long time, but we have to get the heat through the cast iron skillet and into the pizza itself. So, let's go. That is very hot. I'm very excited for this. All right, our super American deep dish is ready, so let's pull on out. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Get that back on there. This boy right up here. We're going to leave that on, actually, because it's kind of hot. But this actually looks like a great version of the deep dish pizza that you get. The crust has risen around the edges, so we're going to have that thickness. We've got a pocket of goodness sitting there in the middle. We're going to let this cool and then give this one a shot. So our first pizza is done and cooled off enough that it's not going to burn the ever-loving everything out of the top of our mouths. I'm really, really excited to give this a shot, so let's cut into it and see. The crust is delicately thin in the middle and just folding down. We've got a wonderful cheese stretch. Let's give this a bite. Oh, man. So the pasta sauce in place of the marinara works beautifully. The flavors of the fresh veggies just are melding so wonderfully with this. We've got melty cheese, we've got crispy crust. The bottom is not burnt, it is crispy. How did the crust come out? I told you, man, it's the Parmesan cheese. It's the Parmesan cheese that does it. Our first pizza, our veggie pizza, is an absolute winner. It is incredibly delicious, incredibly simple to put together, just with stuff we pulled out of the fridge. I am really, really proud of you. You make me very happy in my happy place. So we have gotten our buffalo chicken pizza out of the cast iron skillet, and as you can see, it's got this wonderful thick crust all around the outside. Our little herb spice edge looks amazing on it. Everything on the top looks like it's been heated up. It was bubbling when it came out, and it just slid right on out of the skillet. That's why you oil the heck out of it if you don't preheat it. I'm really curious and excited about this one, so let's find a spot to cut her open and See how it looks. Look at that. It's still really warm, so the crust is kind of falling apart, but that looks so good. I really want to try it, but it's still really hot. I want to... Oh, that is very warm. Let's give it a shot, see how it came out. Wow. Okay. I'm not even sure where to start here. So, the homemade buffalo sauce is the first thing you get on here. And the spices in there just meld directly into the sauce that's on there. The ranch comes in on the back end. The onion has added an amazing subtle flavor that underlies everything throughout. The bacon just adds that wonderful bacony kick. The crust is full of all these wonderful little pockets and divots and just wonderful goodness. I don't want to wait for this to cool, but I have to or it'll hurt me. I can get hurt a little bit. I honestly have no idea what to say. We started this episode trying to make a better, cheaper pizza from scratch. And boy, did we succeed. We made this wonderful veggie pizza, and we made the best buffalo sauce I've ever had, and a buffalo chicken deep dish for $12. That's how much it cost us in stuff we didn't have to make this stuff from scratch. And if we were just pulling things out of the fridge, these things would have cost us maybe 3 or 4 and a little bit of time just to make the dough. These are really, really good, and I'm so glad we did this episode. Because these pizzas are probably the best ones I've ever had, in large part because we made them ourselves. And I really encourage you guys to take this and run with it. These are just 2 examples of anything you can do with pizza. I would love to see what you guys can come up with. So enjoy your pizza, make it yourself, save a bunch of money, and just have a really good time. Unless you're Pepperoni Pete.